So we're going to move on now to a very famous event in British and American military history, and that is D-Day. D-Day, so what is it? It's an operation named Operation Overlord, and that operation was designed to attack something called the Atlantic Wall. Basically, since 1940, as we've learned in previous videos, Germany now control all of Western Europe, and across the Atlantic seafront in Western Europe they have devised, or they have built a series of very complicated and strong defences. British, American, Canadian, Polish and Free French troops take years to plan a very large-scale invasion of northern France. It took years to plan because they had actually tried something similar previously, albeit on a significantly smaller scale, at a place called Dieppe. Pardon my French, should I say, if I've mispronounced that. And that took place in August 1942. Dieppe was heavily defended. There were only a relatively small number of Allied troops who attacked, and 3,000 people ended up being killed, or 3,000 Allied troops ended up being killed in a very short space of time. So the preparations that the Allies needed to take needed to be improved, and they needed to take a long time working out exactly how it was that they were going to succeed when they attacked the Atlantic Wall. So they would need more supplies first and foremost. They devised something called floating harbours, which they would be able to take across and drop in the ocean, and then they would be able to disembark those supplies that they would need to make this invasion successful. They built a pipeline to pump oil and gas and so on across the English Channel to supply the various different modes of transport that they needed to make this invasion a success across the English Channel. And they also used a wide range of deception techniques, so that the Germans didn't really know where this attack was going to be made. On the photograph behind me you can see one of those modes of deception. As you might see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 soldiers holding up what looks like a tank. It's not a real tank, it's an inflatable tank. And this is just one of the many measures that the British and the Americans used to try and fool the Germans into thinking that they were massing soldiers in various different parts of Britain. Had they known where they were massing the various different the units in Britain, the Germans probably would have been able to guess exactly where the invasion was going to take place. So, first of all, as the British code cracking ultra team, they had managed to crack a number of different German codes that they used to communicate with each other, and therefore they were able to work out exactly what the Germans were thinking or saying to each other at any particular given moment. The British and the Americans released plans, I say that in inverted commas, that they were going to invade Calais, again with the intention of deceiving the Germans. There's this build-up of fake equipment in various different places around Britain. German radar stations were attacked, and there were also the spies that I've mentioned in a previous video, who was sent over to France to disrupt communications and to generally fool the Germans into thinking that various different things were happening, anything but, of course, the actual invasion. So what happened on day one? First of all, French resistance fighters went round and blew up bridges. They paved the way for British and American airborne troops to be landed all across Normandy. There was then a very large naval bombardment, followed by a very large aerial bombardment, and then finally 132,000 troops were taken in landing craft onto the beaches at Normandy. If you want a good idea of what that was like, go watch Saving Private Ryan. Eventually, after a whole day of fighting, bridgeheads were established, and additional troops using those floating harbours I mentioned previously were shipped in. So why was it a success? It was a success because they were able to disrupt the German communications. Rommel, who you may remember I mentioned in the campaign for North Africa, he was in charge of the troops in Normandy, and he had been called away on some other business, and therefore he wasn't there, so there was a small degree of panic. There was also the fact that Germany had such a long line to defend that most of their veteran troops, their good fighting troops, were elsewhere. And finally, having attacked Germany in this place, They were now forced to fight on 3 fronts, and it was a step too far for them.